Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're looking today at a game called Dropsy. Dropsy is a old word for, I think, encephalitis is the medical term, or maybe even waterhead is another insulting term. It's definitely not something that you would name a game if you weren't trying to go for a little bit weird and a little bit offensive, and that's pretty much what this game is looking like it's going to be, as a point and click adventure where you play as a creepy pixelated clown in a creepy pixelated world. This lets me get back to playing point and click adventure games, which I haven't done in a while, and it still goes down the chain of playing several weird games in a row since I just played Killer 7, which that had some weird visuals too. This game in particular was one of the early heavily pushed Devolver Digital published games, and Devolver Digital for several years had become kind of notoriously known for doing almost a Tim and Eric like parody of E3 presentations every year around E3, and I think they eventually just ran out of steam. As far as they had done, as far as they had gone as far as they could go in silliness and extremeness. But interestingly, I think this will be a different way to compare what a Adult Swim / Tim and Eric type comedy could do, and what would be more of a Western subversive comedy compared to Killer 7, which was a much older game that was made by Suda 51 Grasshopper Manufacturer, and that's a Japanese, somewhat subversive, although maybe not really that subversive to Japanese type games, but definitely there was a controversy that popped up around Killer 7 that got it rated by the ESRB from being mature to adult only for a brief moment there. Let's hop into the game. The audio starts really quiet. I imagine that this, as a point and click adventure game, will actually be pretty short and simple. So you have two clowns, and then a fire. And there's Dropsy. And the whole tent burned down. Now, I'm not sure if Dropsy is supposed to be a sympathetic character in this game or not, and it's just things around him are weird. In comparison to like the point and click adventure game of like Leisure Suit Larry, where Leisure Suit Larry is always kind of supposed to be a pathetic character in the first games at least. So, mouse setup. We have very like old school. Let's see. Would any of this be subtitles as an option? If anything, it sounds like there might be a walking sound effect that is toggled off by default. Let's try something here. Well, I hear footsteps. So if we click this and then we click, yep, it's a squeaking shoe sound effect. I think we can leave that off. So you're not right clicking for different options apparently. It just toggles when there's something interactive as a point and click adventure game, and then your interactions and maybe items you collect seem to be limited to this top bar, which normally it's always at the bottom bar. Let's see what this is. So you have Dropsy and I guess the mother and the father, very creepy, crying. Right-clicking zooms out from there. We can't jump. Let's see what this is. It's like the front of a race car bed. All very creepy. Yeah, what may be fairly subversive here may just be that this is, as a point-and-click adventure game, as a modern point-and-click adventure game, it doesn't really try that hard to be much of a point-and-click adventure game. I wouldn't be surprised if this is very straightforward and then potentially has an odd audience in which it's too easy for any fans of point-and-click adventure games who have played a lot of them in their past, and it's too creepy for kids. We see patterns here. We can't do anything with the TV. So we walk across here. And it kind of seems like the whole face here, while painted white, is big and round. And so here we see what looks like the mother and the son as ghosts. You can see she disappeared. Alright, well, it seems to me like the audio is just too loud, so I'll use my program that I have to turn down the audio and apologize for that. Creepy sound effects aside, let's just keep getting it lower and lower. If this was pleasant music, I maybe would keep it a little bit louder. So we're gonna need some kind of solution to type in the right code there, obviously. Yeah, I think that's probably good enough as far as turning the audio down. And yeah, we may very much just need to walk over to the corner here, and that may be it. So we see a ghost of a seal with a ball and a ghost of an elephant, and then this looks like this might be the skeleton of that seal. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be the skeleton of the elephant, though. That looks more like just Dropsy. And we walk to the edge and the floor opens and is just going to eat us. So that was all somewhat of a nightmare, although it does look like there's a dog with either a painted face or blood on its nose. So it would be very weird if the entire game took place in environments like that. Let's see. So now we have seemingly a couple different abilities and items. There's a whole map that you can drag around here in this real world. Which the idea of having open world maps in point-and-click adventure games usually doesn't work particularly great. Like, they have to be pretty small, otherwise point-and-click adventure games get too complicated. And I guess by clicking on the dog, we were able to get him to start following us. And so this is our inventory, which means this is a hug ability. Inherently, you run into a problem where I guess maybe we control the dog or Dropsy. This is going to potentially feel like you're just making fun of somebody who's mentally disabled. Even if he is creepy looking, I mean, that's really no reason to make fun of somebody who's mentally disabled or physically disabled. And Devolver Digital definitely was going edgy here, where if you had made this same game and just used the animation of like the clown character from, I think, Broken Sword 1 and just played as him and used those visuals, it probably would have played a little bit well. Undoubtedly, I just don't think there's a single way you could make the assumption that this game didn't probably suffer in sales because of its weird visuals. It is a gag game, and even at a gag game, the visuals make it kind of suffer. And inherently, looking at this now, if you were trying to go for a creepy clown, something like Five Nights at Freddy's or one of those other internet SCP type monsters, this visual art style just doesn't really work for that either. So, are you good? Are you bad? And I think this says 5 years ago. Yeah, the font here again kind of implies that the Dropsy is illiterate. Yeah. And then we can change the channels. Here you have a reference to Mystery Science Theater 3000. But ironically, the pixel ratio here for this image has to be way higher than the pixel ratio in the actual game. And we have a reference to some game, I imagine, but I couldn't tell you what. There's a lot of things here. Seems like it's a lot of little animations for no good reason, unless we're supposed to learn to put a bone and some onions and a tomato together. And we really had to go all over for that. And that's much more pleasant audio. I think it's probably a mistake to have the nightmare sequence at the beginning. It would have made more sense to have a little bit of a tutorial area in this room first, and then have to go to sleep, and then have the nightmare sequence. So there's another mattress here, and then it looks like there's a collection of mice all celebrating a birthday party. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what that's supposed to represent. Is maybe a picture of the mice? So this blue-haired lady, maybe she is supposed to be Dropsy's, like, love interest in the game, as weird as that might sound. And that he's kind of like set up a whole second room. Or, I mean, you just don't know, it could be the mother. You run into a problem certainly by having a point and click with two characters too, because You just don't know how this is going to boil down as to who needs to do what. We now have some Twinkies. So we're making progress. Let's see. 001 is an emergency number for not the United States, though. Noticeably, also, it's Devolver Digital came out in such a way that they came out so hard promoting themselves as a publisher that the two companies that actually made this game, the developers, like, they put up their logo at the beginning, but I didn't even bother to mention them. I don't think they've made anything else. 343. Oh, let's try that. 3, 4, 3. Oh, he is just smashing the phone. Yeah. So if anybody was going to make a phone call, it's not going to be Dropsy with his big swollen hands, or fingerless hands. Let's see what's in this door. Let's see, bathroom. Yeah, and I guess the question here is, are there any achievements around this game at all? Like, I don't know, I'm on the wrong screen to really be able to tell. Let me swap that. Yeah, there are 30 achievements. That was not one of them. We've now got some toilet paper. So we're doing our standard point and click adventure game concept here, where it seems like we can't walk into where possibly a shower is. Let's go. We've been given no real goal or explanation as to what we're supposed to be doing. Little dog area. Let's see. We have a pocket watch. We have... Not gonna take the umbrella. Interesting. So he's living in this like homeless ramshackle house in what looks very much like a garbage dump. And he's trying to build, I guess, the statue of himself. I guess part of the idea here is that this is just going to be non-verbal completely, and that there will just not be any English language or any language whatsoever conversations. Instead, we're going to say, just come here and give this to this guy. So maybe there should have been some conversation that we tried to have there, but yeah. It is definitely a different contrast, certainly, where you have Killer 7, where it's multiple personalities that are assassins. I guess he's saying he's going to work, and they're telling me to hug him goodbye. Well, actually, they're not telling me, they just forced me. And then they're saying that I need to get a present for the mother to go to the city, then go to the graveyard. And so the blue hair blinking on the map probably is where the mother is. So the mother's not dead yet. The whole thing was a nightmare that the mother would be dead. Although I'm still not really sure what this is, if this is just a time of day indicator. There we have a tomato. The dog says we need to get a present for the mother. And then the present equals the dog digging. So I guess the idea here is that the dog will dig up a bone at the graveyard. Spray paint here showing that some people don't like them. Dog dig up this. Okay. And so yeah, if this was cutesy art, this would definitely feel like this was supposed to be a kid's game for like very young kids. And yet, with this creepy art, you wouldn't possibly want to show this to a kid. They'd probably have nightmares. Right. So where are we now? We're now in the forest. So it just really weirdly doesn't really have much of a says love, so maybe I'm supposed to hug the squirrel. Like I think that's the general idea, is you're supposed to just hug everything and give love to everything. Happy. Well, arguably maybe that's all it's supposed to do. It'd be weird if your whole goal in the game is just to make a bunch of people happy. We'll go upward here. And I guess we see if we can hug this one. Or this one? Nope. No hugging this time. And there's the Twinkie box. So maybe I'm supposed to. Broken-hearted. Sadness. Maybe I'm supposed to find a couple different emotions. The dog can't leave certain areas, or can't leave areas at all. Can't do anything with like all this stuff in the tree trunk, can we? Not by the looks of it. Nor can we push the tree over. Here we have a tree. Let's hug the tree. Let's just remind ourselves what we have as items. Yeah, I don't think we would like use the toilet paper on the tree. And here we have regular looking kids just being terrified and running away. So that does seem like that is the joke. And here's a crying girl, which maybe we need to collect her as a character to follow. Right, the flower died. Rain. So the fish wants rain, and the girl wants rain. So we need to make it rain. And we can't hug her. And he can't reach what's up there. Really don't know who this game is for, though. It seems like it's not really trying to be that weird or that subversive. But also it certainly crosses lines where, like, you wouldn't make it a kid's game, nor would you really. Is this weird enough that you would want to make it a like classic point and click adventure game? Almost all point and click adventure games heavily rely on their dialogue and conversations, and you're just not you're just not going to be able to rely on that if you have a completely non-verbal character. And frankly, most point and click adventure games benefited heavily from CD technology and voice acting, and to not have that is also very weird. In a funny way, if this was like Mick Foley dressed up as Santa Claus, Mick Foley being an old wrestler, that might play a little bit better, but that is a fairly obscure reference. It still really wouldn't make sense. Let's see what the dog will do if we click on this. Well, that's what I figured you would do. Yeah, or if this was like Snoopy Saves Christmas. If this was Snoopy, that would kind of make sense too, where everybody just goes wah 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 because they're an adult, and that's how Snoopy cartoons always played in the Snoopy movies. What's this guy? This thing? Microphone. We'll just take it. And I'll just hug the guy. No forced huggings. Seems like you have to. You have to have consciousness and consent to hug. The best game I imagine to compare this to is a game called Little Misfortune that came out slightly, maybe a year or two after this game. And in that you have this little girl who for really no reason has a weird French accent and is always in danger, and you're trying to either put her in more danger or less danger. Well, that didn't work. Let's see if the dog would dig up this dead plant. No. I made her cry even more. And yeah, Little Misfortune as a point and click adventure game, which is basically what it is, definitely goes more in that direction of having a lot of dialogue and a lot of comedy written in the conversation and dialogue. There's just a lot of people that are sad. Sandwich, no. Smoking equals evil. Smoking marijuana equals evil. Preaching. Rock music equals evil. And so maybe this is a idea that she's giving us a hint as far as we're supposed to do all the things that they say are evil here. I think we probably just want a sandwich. So, this microphone seems to have a power cord on it to like electrocute her, potentially. Definitely feels like there's going to be things you can't do until you really need to do them, which that's generally why you don't want an open world point and click adventure game, is because if it is open world and I can go get an item and then mix it with an item to solve a puzzle hours later, then I would expect the game should let me do that. Let's see. She wants food. Interesting. Seems like you might be able to sleep, and that might be part of the trick to this whole game. Is that we're gonna go into these nightmare sections and then do something in kind of a catatonic state, and and then it's gonna solve the puzzle in the awake sections. Storyline wise, this isn't too different from like, well, it kind of reminds me of American McGee's Alice Madness Returns in the subversive story, but I guess mostly that's just because I saw a fire, and there's a fire that plays a prominent role in Madness Returns. He tried to help you, and that's wasting money. This guy doesn't like me. Nobody likes me. Do not run into a problem, certainly. Also, where so just the default answer, I think, to most interactions until we get to a second act seems like we're just going to be hated by everybody, which I guess establishes somewhat of a theme. Alright, so now we have some rock and roll music. Some heavy metal devil music. Stage needs a microphone. Let's see. He's basically telling us we can't take the tapes. And that's another issue certainly about point and click adventure games, is that you tend to not want a situation where you can't just grab things. Do we need a mic stand also? Money for records. Stage ... Here we have a Dracula and like Thor and some other guy. 555-9725 for a record, I guess. Yeah, I'd have to say this game doesn't really establish itself well compared to most games, but even Killer 7 it's just like I have no idea what I'm doing and no idea, only a small idea about what I'm supposed to be doing overall. It does seem like the map has made it a little bit easier to potentially fast travel by just clicking on spots, which inherently destroys the idea of an open world. And it mostly, I think, is going to say that the entirety of the map probably is about this far, and that there will just be a couple of acts. I wouldn't even be surprised if this really is just 2 acts. The fact that I've gone 36 minutes and haven't gotten a single achievement probably implies that there's a decent amount of game here. Right, we have like an auto save here, which I don't know if this button is supposed to be a delete option. Let's just see. Load, save, delete. Or maybe the button does nothing at all. Yeah. And I assume this would just restart you to the main menu, and this would probably exit the whole program. Yeah, can't really be that much of a game. It does seem like time is still going to play a role, though, because it is getting darker. Alright, well, I don't want this to just be a 2-hour long one-shot of this series, but so far I'm not particularly impressed by the art style. It's weird. It feels like something you would see drawn on a bathroom stall wall more than some animation style that you would really want to see in a video game. It has no voice acting, which voice acting is one of the best parts of point and click adventures, and the puzzles so far are not striking me as being difficult at all, which makes it a very weird game. Now, yes, you can admit that it's been many decades since point and click adventure games were very prominent, so if you were trying to single-handedly reboot the entirety of the point and click adventure genre, you might try to make an easy point and click for that reason. And certainly a lot of old point and click adventure games were too obscure and difficult. But no, I just don't think you could give any extra credit for doing any of that when this is the product you have to display. I imagine what's going to happen here is we'll burn through this game fairly quickly, and then I will not really be that blown away by it, and then I'll just move on to the next game, which is fine enough. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.